The Hannah Murray Show on Talk Radio Europe.
Welcome back to today's Health and Beauty Show. We're going over to the UK now to speak to Deanne Clark. She's the Chief Executive of Impact Mental Health Charity. More and more people across Europe are being affected with depression because of the recession. Welcome to the show, Deanne.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for joining us. Now, depression, I guess, is that an umbrella term, would you say, for many different mental health illnesses, or not necessarily?
Oh, absolutely, but I think probably one that most of society can identify with, and as you quite rightly say, it does cover a plethora of mental health. In fact, you know, that they're saying that 1 in 4 people within society will experience some form of depression, and that can involve anything from mild anxiety to panic attacks to depression where one feels just extremely low, as well as taking it even further where one has to pop along to their GP and discuss this to get extra help.
Do you think that depression can be cured or got over by talking about it, either by just talking to friends and family or by seeing a therapist?
Possibly wouldn't use the word cured, but certainly one of the biggest things that an individual can do to help themselves and to get the right kind of support is to actually talk about it. Yes, certainly you can get a variety of help through many means nowadays, which goes a long way to help identify coping mechanisms and strategies in order to tackle the depression.
Are there any wrong ways of dealing with depression, do you think?
I think for me, fundamentally, the wrong way to deal with depression is not to talk about it. You need to talk about it. Keeping it to yourself will just exacerbate the problem. By sharing it, talking it through with somebody, getting other people's opinions and views on how best to help an individual is 100% the right way to go.
I suppose a lot of people would probably be embarrassed about it, maybe, because there still, sadly, is a bit of a stigma attached to depression, isn't there?
Oh, unfortunately, there's a huge stigma attached to depression. I mean, I know a UK campaign, Time to Change, whose logo is, you know, Let's End Mental Health Discrimination and Stigma, is working hard to combat some of that, as is Impact Mental Health. In actual fact, Ruby Wax, who's a part of the Time to Change when it first came out, actually said that 1 in 4 people suffer from depression. 1 in 4 people also experience dandruff. You know, she's had both. It simply is about getting it out there. And you know, I think the days are gone where we're hammering at the brick wall of discrimination. It's now about calling on the wider society to work co-productively with everybody involved in mental health to say, you know what, it's not good enough. We don't have this discrimination and this stigma around people that experience heart disease or any other health-related disease. Why do we get it with mental health?
Stephen Fry's done a lot for depression to get people to know about that it's quite obviously a common condition and nothing to be afraid of, because he's suffered for most of his life with it, hasn't he?
Absolutely. He's actually involved in the Time to Change campaign and was one of the first that launched that. No, he's done a tremendous amount, and it takes some bold moves from people that are in the limelight constantly to actually stick up their hand and say, you know what, I've experienced it, I'm still experiencing, I'm coping today, but next week I might not. It can affect absolutely everybody, even down to CEOs.
Yeah, I was going to say, are there certain people, certain personality types or whatever that you would say are more likely to experience depression at one point or another in their life?
No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, there are certain areas where one ought to look out for the onset. I mean, in particular for postnatal depression, health visitors are very skilled at identifying what the signs and symptoms are in that particular area. And unfortunately, if a certain age group, youngsters do take illicit drugs, they are prone to experience some form of mental ill health. Not everybody, but it has been known. But generally, no. No one is safe from mental ill health. But that's not to say that it's an extremely bad thing. If you get it, there are things you can do to work it through and move on.
Are there any sort of physical symptoms from depression?
Well, you can get the physical symptoms. It can be a physical illness that can bring on mental ill health, and that, as I said earlier, can come in the form of depression. It could be that you're immobile or you're isolated because of a physical illness. However, what tends to happen in a lot of cases is that somebody that's experiencing maybe clinical depression can become so unwell that they don't address their diet. Excuse me, they don't address their diet properly. They don't tend to go out a lot. They tend to isolate themselves, and therefore they're not getting the exercise. So when you take away your exercise, you're not eating well, of course it's going to have an effect on your physical well-being too. And unfortunately that impacts even further on your mental well-being. And it is a vicious cycle. So it's about detecting those signs very early on and talking them through. And I think also it's about encouraging family and friends and neighbours to be on a lookout. I mean, if your friend or your neighbour is living alone next door and they're tucked up in bed with flu, you're not going to leave it. You're going to pop next door and say, "Hi, is there anything I can do? Do you need any help?" But it's a shame that people don't see that as the same way that they should be treating people that are unwell mentally too.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it must be, or it can be, I guess, quite difficult for family members and friends of people who are suffering from depression, especially if it's something that's just, come on and they're changing and they're seeing the difference in them. Any tips on how to deal with people who have depression?
No, absolutely. It is terribly difficult for family members to experience a loved one going through what can only be described as quite a significant change in character and behaviour and personality. What I can say is, you don't have to deal with this alone. There are many, many organisations out there. Some you can just Google to talk to somebody about how to deal with an individual that's experiencing this. But, on the onset, I would certainly talk to somebody if it was a member of the family or a close friend. Talk to them, find out what it is that's fundamentally wrong if they're able to discuss that with you. If you feel the whole thing is spiralling out of control, then you need to talk to somebody. There's help for the family members too, as well as the individual experience mental ill health.
Okay, well that's good to know. If people want to get in touch with you and the team from Impact Mental Health, what's the website? Absolutely,
it's Impact MH. Just Google us, the website will come up. Or in addition to that, more than happy to answer any questions. We're now on Facebook. If anybody does have any questions, happy to point them in the right direction, give them some advice on specific organisations that hopefully can support them through any difficulties.
Fantastic. Deanne Clark, thanks ever so much for joining us. The website,
pleasure.
if people want to get in touch, www.impactmh.com, is it?
Yes.
.com, perfect. Thanks very much for being with us today.
Thank you.